Hey, welcome to Podioslave podcast. It's April 3rd. I'm here with my friends Anthony and Tony. How you guys doing?
Good.
Episode 4, guys. It's going by quick.
Yeah.
So we have a cool episode in store for you guys. Before you listen, pause this right now. Check us out on Instagram at Podioslave. Check us out on Twitter. And is Twitter at Podioslave? Or
It is, yep.
At Podioslave. And if you have any future ideas for future episodes, shoot us an email. DM us on Instagram. Our email is podioslavepodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. We've already got some cool feedback on Instagram for future episodes and some feedback on some teasers we put out there. So keep that up. But yeah, thanks for listening.
Yeah, always be nerding, guys. We've been active, try to be active on those social media platforms just to kind of see different ideas. I know I saw something today that I forwarded to you guys. Cutting down one of our classic albums into 7 tracks. Maybe it's a 20-track album, and you're like, or even a 10-track album, and you gotta get rid of 3 of them. That'd be something we might do down the road. So we're always looking for that stuff. So if you're on Twitter or you're on Instagram and you want to shout us out, or if you want to just shoot us an email and let us know how if you're listening to it, what you think of it, that'd be awesome. We'd be all about that. So we threw this up front today because we talked so long last week, it maybe got buried at the end. So we want people to know that we're out there, and you can come and talk to us and let us know what we're doing. So that being said, the episode tonight, we've got a couple things we wanted to go through. First thing, we're going to kind of recap the week. The week's been a little crazy. Look at what we've seen musically, whether it be Instagram Live or stuff like that's caught our eye this week. Anything maybe we've revisited over the last few days, that's something we haven't maybe listened to for a long time. Just kind of what we're digging right now. That's going to start it. And then I got an interesting email from a large corporation earlier this week with a pivot that we were going to talk a little bit about how things have gone that way as far as the live music situation goes, and then into maybe how Ticketmaster and Live Nation are coping, and how we got here, and how a little deep dive on that situation. So we've done a little bit of homework to get through that piece too. So that's kind of the idea going forward. We're going to do that tonight. Anything else, guys?
No, I mean, I think we're all interested in how they're coping because, we're really concerned about them and their well-being. And, yeah.
Yeah, I really feel bad for Ticketmaster and the Scalpers, too, right? We saw that article about Scalpers we'll get into a little bit. So, yeah, those guys I feel bad.
I feel like we've paid their way for a very long time on the fees alone.
Yeah, we've been their bailout package for 25 years. So
yeah, don't even get me going. I'm gonna get going. it's just gonna happen. I've already got. I'm fired up just talking about the intro.
It's a touchy subject that we've all been affected by. Yeah,
absolutely.
So
I guess go ahead, Tuan.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think in terms of this week for new releases, of course, all the new releases come out today on Friday. I looked through it. There wasn't much for me. So I didn't really check out anything new. I was more into the throwbacks this last week. And I know we were chatting. One band I think we all were collectively throwing back was Head PE. Head Planet Earth. And I know for us, who kind of grew up in that late 90s, early 2000s, metal, new metal, rap metal, they were a big deal for us. So I revisited the Broke album and the self-titled album, and they still hold up. Like those albums, like I said in the group chat, those are first ballot Hall of Fame new metal albums, if there was ever such a thing.
100%.
Yeah, I last night actually, and we hadn't said, hey, listen to this because I want you to, so we can talk about it. I did the same thing. I listened to self-titled. I listened to most of Home Broke. I listened to some of the one that came after. What was the name of it? I'm drawing a blank. Blackout, yeah. I listened to some of Blackout. I listened to some songs from an album a couple years even after that, and I was just like, these are the ones I like from this. So I just kind of went on a Head PE spree last night. But I know, Anthony, you had a pretty good Vince Carter analogy as far as Head PE goes. You want to share that with us right now?
Yeah, so it's funny. I actually So Vince Carter, NBA player, he's 43, he's in his 40s. He, at one point in his early career, was, the next Jordan. He could jump through the roof, dunk contest winner, all-star, real stud of his team. As, he hit his 30s, he had injuries, getting older, and he stayed in the game too long. His second half of his career just completely overshadows the first half. And that's Head PE. I hate to say it, but they there's albums. Honestly, I have not been a fan since like 2004, maybe 2003. But, the beauty is you can still appreciate the old Vince Carter footage. You can check out the old albums, which is what I did.
It's so funny that we all checked out. And I think we all were talking about, we got some telepathic message. We were all kind of like checking out those albums all kind of simultaneously. But yeah, man, great albums, great band. Huntington Beach, California. All those guys are still alive. So if they wanted to reunite, it could absolutely happen,
That would be cool.
And like, talk about Hall of Famers, like that first self-titled album, Fred Durst from Limp Bizkit took a lot of influence on that album to write $3 Bill. So they were like, a huge influence on Limp Bizkit, which obviously became a huge band. Head PE are kind of like an underground, not small time, but, smaller band for sure. And
at that point, they were small. They were definitely small at that point.
Well, and the versatility, like that, they're heavy. There's some straight up jazz moments on that album.
Mm-hmm.
There's Cali, like skate punk. You can definitely tell all that.
Mm-hmm.
And then hardcore.
Yeah.
There's some hardcore aspects to pieces of those songs. And then not to mention Jared can actually rap. Like he's good. He can rhyme and his flow is good. And it's just, go listen to Ken 2012. That would, if you like that mashup, and I know we're babies of nu metal, but that is kind of the quintessential type of nu metal song that was big. Like it had that heavy, it had that awesome rap. It had, it had everything, which, I still love that song.
Like you said, the jazzy elements, the wah-wah pedal at the beginning, that's an epic song. Great album, man.
Yep. Yeah, Nate, we're overdue for a late night drunk. Let's blast that song.
Yeah, that album's got a lot of memories attached to it for that reason.
It does. Yeah, it does. It does.
What else you guys been spinning?
Let's see. I was supposed to do an event with my company out in the desert, out in Palm Springs. Cannabis event, and it was a collaboration we were going to do with Be Real from Cypress Hill. I was really excited about it, and their organization, and the whole event got canceled kind of because of this COVID-19 scenario, but I was excited to work with the guys from Cypress Hill and get to know them and work together, especially because they're heavyweights in this industry. So in almost tribute, I started playing a lot of Cypress Hill this week, kind of like, oh man, the almost what could have been kind of scenario. But always been a Cypress Hill fan, but talk about meeting some of your heroes. That would have been a cool collaboration with us. But and kind of piggybacked off the Head PE thing. It was like, oh, you know what? I need to get back into this like older hip hop, rock, that scene, late '90s kind of thing. So, what about you, Tone?
I've been a little different actually. I was, you guys, we've shared this back and forth a little bit too on Instagram. Dave Grohl's stories.
Yep.
Yeah.
Those have been kind of cool. I read through the Pantera one. I don't know if you guys peeped that one, but
I just read that. Yeah.
It was great. Like you get first through the first couple of pages, and you're like, all right, where's this going? Because the end of it is completely different than the beginning part. So it was cool. It was like, I don't know where he's going with this, but I want to, I read through the page. All right, what's next? Oh wow, This is completely different. All right, what's next? And on that platform, it was just, I've never seen anything like that on Instagram. Like it's always pictures with captions and hashtags and all that, and we do that too. But to like turn it into a book and cool. have a mini story just there for you to read through on your lunch break, which is when I did it the other day, and I was just like, this is awesome. And then I won't spoil the story, you guys should go read it, but it was pretty badass, just the whole thing and how it ended. I was like, I just didn't see any of it coming, so that was kind of cool. That was one of the things I was paying most attention to this week. I did watch a couple live streams. Luke Combs, I don't know if you guys are country fans at all. I listen to everything, so you're going to hear anything from me. He did about 20 minutes and a couple of his big songs, and he covered Tracy Chapman's Fast Car, which was really cool.
Wow, I got to check that out.
Yeah. and he's got a great voice. Like he just, I don't listen to a ton of country, but when it's something that I like, it gets played. So,
Well, he's a big dude. He can belt it out.
Yeah,
he's good.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So that's something. I'll send you guys a link to that. But that was something that I really liked this week too. So, Tuan, you?
Thinking about Grohl, it reminded me, and I know I chatted about this a couple episodes ago, but it reminded me of Henry Rollins' books, where it's kind of really a diary entry, like it's a story and a diary entry. And Grohl, has he done a book yet?
I don't think so.
There's a book about him, like a unauthorized biography type scenario.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, definitely not something firsthand.
He should do that, because I'd be in. No doubt.
Absolutely.
So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. Especially the way he writes is like as spastic as the way he really talks. So it's almost like it's like really coming from him. 100%. He's got like this cartoonish like way of speaking. He even like writes it in those posts like in parentheses, like random. I mean, like you said, you're reading a tone. You don't want to give it away too many things, but like the Lucky Charms analogy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was so, and I was like, damn it, he's right.
Yeah.
Well, and it also humanized him too, because like again, spoiler alert, but he's a fan of other bands, and especially when the timing of that particular story, like I think it was late '90s. He was a fanboy of other bands, just like we are. So that's cool. Yeah, that's cool stuff.
Well, and he's at that point, he's Dave fucking Grohl. Like it's not like he's nobody, but he's still fanboys out like you or I do when we see something or see somebody in our orbit. So for him to be like us always makes you feel good, feel connected.
Yeah. So I checked out the Dave Grohl the stories. That's that was actually one of the highlights of the week.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, we're all stuck inside for the most part. I've been deemed essential in my line of work, so I've been out pretty much every day this week, but being careful, trying to minimize my contact with the outside world the best I can, and cleaning things when I'm done with it. So I've been the opposite of most people, which is kind of weird, because it's like you get on the road, and a drive that takes me maybe 20 minutes to do in the morning is taking me about 7, which is really weird. So yeah,
that's crazy, man.
So anything else you guys are have you seen? I don't know. I need to give the Pearl Jam record another spin. I did it once. That my record came in the mail. I was pretty excited about that.
Nice. Yeah, I was doing a lot of throwback stuff, like what you were talking about we were all talking about with Head PE. Like, I just started to get stuck in that like little area. Not so much new metal, but just the Cypress Hill stuff. I think I sent you guys some snippets or something related to Zebrahead, which is also, they also kind of came up around the same time.
Yes.
Also from Orange County. So it's checking out Waste of Mind, because I hadn't listened to that album in probably 5 years, in full at least, or in its entirety. Great album, another like mix mash of like hip hop, and that's more like a hip hop, I don't know, punk, like
definitely,
skater punk. Yeah,
that album's great too. You got me into them.
Yeah. Oh man, so good. Can't remember how I got into them, but I think I got into them from Warren Miller, the ski films.
Yep.
The intros to those films were always Zebrahead songs. So I got into it that way. When Warren Miller used to show the ski films at State Theater, another throw props to State Theater again. But and then randomly, I think you had something on Boozy Vinyl, a little plug for Boozy Vinyl about U2. So then I got into a huge like polar
That's
opposite,
true,
like I got into like a huge like U2 streak where I started playing like I think I played like 3 of their albums this week, and I'm like, oh man, I love this band.
I'm not sure how I could forget that. I last night I tossed on How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb. We had mentioned going. I don't know if we had mentioned it yet, but it'll come up in our best concerts list when we go down that road. But we'd gone to see U2 back in 2005. Yep. And on that tour in Boston, which is a great place to see a band that city just loves U2. It's with the Irish community there and all that stuff. So to go back and listen to that again, I was like, yes, this is. I just remember it was just reliving, live music through listening to the record. That's something that we can't go see it right now, so we might as well listen and reminisce until we can get through this.
Yeah, hit your iTunes and I don't know if it's that album or the album after it. It'll probably be there because they dumped that album on everyone.
That's true. Yeah.
Actually, it wasn't that album. It was a couple after that, I think.
No, it was Innocent Songs of Innocence, or what was the name of it, Nate? I can't remember.
No, I think you're right. Yeah, I remember it showed up on my phone. Yeah, it was like a.
And that didn't bother me. I don't know why it bothered everybody else.
Guerrilla marketing at its finest. Just.
Yeah.
You know who's not going to be bothered? All those people that get that random $1,200 in their checking account from the government.
Yeah.
How did you guys know how to put that in my account?
Right.
What the hell?
No good.
That is a very interesting parallel for sure.
Bono and the Edge are just like, you guys want free music? Here it is.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
It's funny they did that because like you wonder how that affects SoundScan ratings and stuff like that. It's like a lot of these people just like didn't even want the album, and it just shows up. And obviously you're gonna play it. A lot of the times, I don't know if this happens to you guys, but my phone, if you get into like a car with Bluetooth or whatever, it'll just start playing whatever's on Apple Music, and so that album used to play like automatically.
Yeah.
And I would jump in my car. I'm like, I'm not even queuing this up. So they probably got so many additional spins just out of
Smart guys. I mean,
you know what that reminds me of is there's been a lot of SoundScan scandal in the last few years, but I think it was DJ Khaled within the last couple of years. He linked up with some energy drink company where when you bought the energy drink, you indirectly bought his album. It's just the way they did it. So it was basically a SoundScan cheat code.
No way.
And they've cracked down on it. I know Nicki Minaj had something similar like that, where they partnered with some other brands and just exploited someone buying something else, basically, in it counting.
Didn't Jay-Z do that with Samsung with the phones for a little while too? Yeah, back. I can't remember the album now off the top of my head, but
Magna Carta, Holy Grail.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, right? That was probably 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So, the artists trying to, especially in the age of streaming where it's harder to be like, yeah, people went to the store and bought this CD or bought this album. No, it's just let's put it out there and make people have it by accident and play by accident, and we're going to get numbers, and let's see how that goes. There's always going to be somebody to try to game that system, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And the
whole Billboard thing.
Yeah. The thing is, I think they must factor in, because there's a stream to albums purchased ratio, and I don't know what it is, but they have to, I'm sure they account for some level of that.
Yeah, and they're probably better at it today than they were, when this all started, when the streaming stuff started. So it just probably took time and effort, and like, okay, yeah, if we put U2's album on everybody's phone and like, a third of those people listen to it by accident, should we really be counting that as a full listen? Probably not. So that's what I'm sure they're better at it today than they used to be. Speaking of that, I saw on, was it Loudwire maybe, that digital album sales are up like the highest they've been in forever. So music did come back. We were right. We just were a week late.
Yeah, we're always right.
Is that pre-COVID-19 though, or is that accounting? Is that real time?
That's a good question. I don't know. That's a good question. I just saw it posted this morning. I was like, oh, I mean, we thought that the streaming numbers were going to be down because we read that last week, and we were kind of surprised by it because people were stuck at home. But it made some sense with gyms being closed and people not commuting. But it popped up that the streaming numbers were back up. It makes some, or not streaming, digital album sales, which is kind of random because like most people have a streaming service, right? So maybe there are a lot of people still out there buying albums on iTunes and just don't know any better. Like I'm sure my dad would do that. Like,
no, I had a friend text me earlier. He lives in upstate New York, and said that he took me up on a bunch of recommendations that I had sent him, like texts, like I don't know, like a month and a half ago or something like that. He's like, hey, I bought all these albums on iTunes or whatever. I'm like, bought the albums? I'm like, it's same thing. I was surprised, like, oh, okay. I guess
you're still doing that.
Yeah. And I think it's because same thing. He had downtime. He's like, yeah, I guess I'll finally get around to actually taking Nate's advice and checking this stuff out. But I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I haven't bought an album in that format in a while because now I'm streaming. Like we're all buying, or all three of us are buying vinyl and stuff. But physical albums or buying an album in its entirety on Apple Music or whatever just seems like an afterthought. But hey, whatever. To each their own, I guess.
I've heard of. I was gonna say I've heard of people buying the album on iTunes because they say I want to support the artist, but that's a one-time thing. So I'd wonder If you're planning to spin the hell out of that album, are you better off buying it or just streaming it as you normally would?
True. Yeah, that's a good point. Because like, if you're gonna listen to it 100 times, you're probably making them more money to not buy it and actually just stream it.
Yeah.
Ooh, we're gonna have to look into that.
That's taking notes on that one. Jot that one down.
This article came out today, and it says for the week ending March 26th, so last week, it's the 7-month high. So that's kind of random.
Wow. I mean, I'm still intrigued to buy albums like that, like what you were saying, because I was telling you, Twan, earlier, like I'm not really listening to Spotify as much, but I'm definitely using my SiriusXM to death. And so I was spinning, I took a long walk today and was playing Liquid Metal. And, they had Testament on there, and then Testament just dropped their album today. But I'll probably so I'll probably go back to Spotify and download that album through Spotify and stream it there. But,
that makes sense. I mean, you're gonna, especially if it's something you want to check out. Like, okay, I'm listening to the radio, and in your case, satellite radio, and then you're like, okay, I found a song I like. I'm gonna go back and find that album and listen to it. Like, that's what most music fans do nowadays. I would think, if either by word of mouth with a friend or, just hearing something out in the world. So.
Yeah.
I think I want to touch on that email that I got. Now, so Live Nation sent me an email, and I found it kind of interesting. A lot of times they'll send emails out and say, here's what's coming up in your neck of the woods for shows, in the Northeast, say. And I'd get stuff for Lowell and Boston and Portland and all that stuff. Just kind of, here's what's going to happen. You should buy tickets to this because you're a fan of this, this, and this. So instead I got an email saying, here's what's going to be streamed on the internet in these places over the next, week or so, which was obviously a pivot for them. A couple questions kind of came up in my mind. All of these bands are doing things on the internet that are live and essentially free at this point. If you've got a smartphone or you've got a way to get to Instagram Live or Facebook Live, you can watch these things for free. When does that change? When does that become a paywall situation? How far down the road do we have to go where those middling to lower tier bands that just don't have the following that the big bands do can't do it for free anymore? And, that was the big thing for me, was are we going to get to a point where we are stuck and we maybe have to throw a couple dollars at it to watch something we might want to watch? And there are things I would definitely pay for, but that's a thought. You guys, what do you think?
Yeah. Twan?
No, I was going to say, and we'll get into kind of the history of Live Nation and Ticketmaster and whatnot, but given their track record, this is a total setup. This is a bait and switch. This is the free week of Sirius satellite radio to get you hooked, because I think short term there's no benefit for them. I mean, the only benefit for them would be the fact that you might think favorably of them because they're tipping you off to a free show. And that's the value they provide short term, but this is a longer term play, and I think this has legs even when shows come back, even when live music comes back. I think you're right. This is a potential revenue stream. And don't be surprised if those ones that they advertise, there is a paywall behind it, and they're just not tipping you off to it.
Yeah, no, I didn't click on it to see what I could see and if I had to pay for it or not. So that could have been there too, for sure.
Yeah, enter your email, enter your social security number.
Your firstborn.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah, everything is long term. I mean, I can see that being the case for sure, but I don't think there's any freebies long term in any of this stuff right now. And I was having a good talk with one of my coworkers about this. He's like, there's going to be so much change after this. There's everything that we're getting used to now. It's not like everything's just going to flip back to how it was before. Everything is permanently going to be altered from here going forward. So even live shows, we're all very optimistic that they're going to come back in full force. But I don't know. After talking to my friend yesterday, I'm because he's got some insight too. He's in the industry, and he's like, this. I mean, I don't really know. He's like, I don't really see it coming back. I think this might be just a good little runway for VR to come in and just make it a simulated experience where you're watching a show, and like you're saying, you're paying for watching a show in that setting, and it's ooh, I I really hope not, because I really enjoy being there. But you know, is everyone going to have like this extreme PTSD where they're just like, I don't really want to go to the show, and then it's a loss for the venues and a loss for production and getting all these things organized to just see like very low attendance. You know, it's like when these amphitheaters start doing like those 4-pack for the lawns, like, because they can't sell the tickets fast enough, so they're like, here's a 4-pack for the lawn for like, you know, $60, like some insane steal, because they literally can't fill the seats because they're just, you know, the demand just isn't there. So I feel like you never know, man. Just the aftermath of all this is going to be crazy to see. We'll
be feeling ripples of this for the rest of our lives. You know, like we've mentioned before, we're in our mid-30s. Like we will never escape this in the rest of our lifetime. It's just not going to happen. Now, as far as live music goes, I think things are going to be back, you know, we're not going to flip the switch, obviously. We all know that. It can't just go back to normal once this is nipped. Until there's a vaccine, which could be, you know, another 9-10 months from now, it's going to be hard for people who didn't get sick, that stayed at home, to be like, yeah, I'm ready to go to a big crowd again and see what happens. So, you know, we're talking a year probably before, you know, a big time music is back to where it kind of was live wise, to go see him in concert, see things in concert. So I'm skeptical and hopeful at the same time, but I'm thinking we're talking summer of 2021 before we see any really big, you know, spring, summer of 2021 before we see anything really big.
Yeah, your head is exactly where mine's at, because even when the floodgates are open, when things are, air quotes, back to normal, there's going to be a big population that is months behind that, where they're not going to go. They're not going to return to normal life. So this could be an opportunity, you know, as a music nerd in me, this could be the Deftones at House of Blues tour. This could be, you know, bands knowing they will not be able to draw. It may be an opportunity to see bigger bands in small venues.
Yeah.
Wow. Good point.
Yep. And that would be cool.
Yeah. Or Hampton Beach, New Hampshire Casino Ballroom, you know, a throwback to those type of shows. But
yeah, I agree with both of you. I think that it's going to be a long time. So every time I see these tours being pushed to like fall of 2020, I'm like, yeah, right. And even if it does happen, I just assume that those are going to get canceled too. So it's just like, why even promote that? Or why, like, any of these emails that are coming in for shows that are getting announced or tours that are coming out in the fall, like they think that's enough time for this to pass. It's like, well, don't waste your marketing money. Like, this is just pointless. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Like, and like you guys are saying, I'm being optimistic, and obviously I want to go to shows. But if like the Rolling Stones tickets I have, if they're like, oh, yeah, show's back on September 2020, I'm probably gonna be like, oh yeah, I'll take a refund. You know, I'm not trying to go back right now. I love the Rolling Stones, but
yeah, I mean, that's understandable, and I think you're not going to be the only one like that. And to Tuan's point, maybe we do see the Rolling Stones in a place that holds a couple thousand people. You know, if they want to keep doing it. Now, at the same time, they're all older and have partied hard and lived hard. Do they want to put themselves in those situations? Maybe they just say, you know what, guys, this is what this is finally what, you know, put to put it to the end. We're done here. We don't want to do. We're going to put ourselves in that situation if we can avoid it. We've made our money. We've had plenty of fun. And if things are safer down the road, maybe we'll join back in then. But right now, it's not a great idea. So
Nate, you've seen the rescheduled events for the fall. I saw some rescheduled for July. Some people are super optimistic, and
that's crazy. That's crazy talk.
It really is.
Yeah. Oh my god.
I saw. I was talking to a coworker today who had tickets for something in the Boston area in May, and it hasn't been canceled yet or postponed yet. Like, wow. What are you? They must have just forgotten about it. Like, they had to have just forgotten about it.
I don't know. It's like Twan was saying on a few episodes ago about that Metal Fest, that they just kept putting it off, and there was probably some, you know, things behind the scenes where like they didn't have insurance or they didn't have, you know, a way to back out unless it was like until we made a state of emergency where they're like, all right, cool, we can kind of like piggyback on this at least, but you know, the advances have been paid out and this kind of thing.
Yeah, that speaking of the state of emergency and having you know, government help, a lot of people are relying on that, and that is good, sort of, but it may not be what they think, and it's going to be, you know, you're still going to take a loss. Everybody's going to take a loss. It's just going to be the way it is.
Yeah.
I know my dad's girlfriend owns a salon in Florida, and she's not in there every day, so she's away from stuff. But they had to stay open because her girls wanted to work and cut hair, and they finally closed everything down in Florida today. That's, I mean, why we waited till April for that is beyond me. But yeah, I'm like, Dad, just tell her to close now. He's like, she's not going to get any help unless she is told she has to close. I'm like, that sucks.
Jeez.
It's tough all around. Anything that pays the bills where you have to be physically there is in trouble, and certainly live music is feeling it.
Well, and it's crazy that most of what we do is on that. Like, a lot of our world is human interaction, and I hope we don't lose that in our lifetime, because it's a great thing. Like, there's nothing like being at a concert with all the people there that want to see the band you're there to see. Mm-hmm. And that kind of collective positive vibe that you get from that, there's nothing like it.
Oh man, well, like that podcast we were listening to, what was it, Bill Simmons, where they're talking about, the band's talking about
Pearl Jam. It's the Pearl Jam, right?
It's a 50-50 split. It's like the band's bringing energy, but they're also, their energy is also coming from the crowd, and it's like a dance between both to make it an actual experience. So like, doing that all virtual, like, man, I hope it doesn't go there, but I feel like it's, to be honest, I feel like it's somewhat inevitable, to be totally honest, just because, I mean, it's just the way of the future in a lot of ways. We're just like pivoting randomly to Zoom all of a sudden on a lot of things. Like they were talking about doing sports events without the crowd, like obviously these,
crazy.
Obviously these people that own the stadiums and stuff don't want to do that, but is it worth a, class action lawsuit for, I don't know, just try to mitigate
people getting sick. Yeah.
Yeah. The risk. So, I mean, unfortunately the infrastructure has been built around this old model with crowds, Colosseum type scenario going back to like the Roman ages, but the ebb and flow, like we're so futuristic now. Like when I'm not doing this kind of nerdery, I'm doing nerdery with like self-driving cars and this company in the Bay Area that is literally launching next month, like delivery vehicles to deliver pizza to you with driverless little like these little mini cars, So like this stuff
That's
it's
awesome.
no longer
that is awesome.
it is really cool. So it's no longer sci-fi,
Yeah, it's real life.
This is all real life, and it's just happening at a speed that we didn't anticipate, I think, or at least unless you're involved in that kind of technology, it's here. It's here today, and it's only going to get faster. If things are improving at 0.1%, you put that the span of 20 years, like how fast, like what is the advancement? It's just hard to
I feel bad for the high school kids going forward who are not going to have a snow day ever again because they can just do online learning.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, because
that's over.
You're doing online classes, and then you have to jump into your online homework right after. You don't get a break. You're just on a screen the whole time. It sucks.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
The more I think about the whole, to kind of bring it back to the Live Nation streaming thing, like I don't think the whole digital concert experience has long-term legs. I don't, because like if you we mentioned it last week, the Third Eye Blind in the Stephen Jenkins kitchen or whatever, like that's cool to hear stripped down raw once, maybe twice. After that, I probably wouldn't tune back in.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
The shelf life is. You're right. The shelf life is probably pretty quick on that. And I liken that to. This came up on my Facebook memory yesterday. Nate and I were at a Stone Sour gig, probably 7 years ago, where we met Corey and Jim out back before the show, and I remember the end of that gig. He did some acoustic kind of just Corey Taylor on stage.
Nice. Some
of the slower Stone Sour songs that are amazing, like Bother and stuff like that. And I thought to myself, imagine him doing that in his kitchen. Okay, yeah, I'd tune in and watch it once, and then maybe did it again the following week a little differently, but it was similar. It would none of that touches being in the room, having him do it to a crowd, of 1,800 people. It was just so much cooler.
No, exactly. I mean, the whole purpose is to not be on a screen. When you go to an event like that, it's to unplug, it's to get away, it's to not be on your phone and computers, to really just be away from all of it. So to bring that into all one format, it's like, oh man, the magic will officially dissipate. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah. I mean, I hate to say it, but to be honest, like I don't want to say it has legs, but I just feel like a lot of the stuff's out of our control. Like iPhones came out in '07. We're officially a cyborg now, because of the iPhone. So, it was kind of a sly way to get it in. Like, oh, this like cool device that helps us, communicate a little bit easier, and the access to information is at your fingertips. But now it's like we're so dependent on that product now. We're in our, like you said, mid 30s. So the next generation, they kind of get, now they grow up with a phone in their hand or an iPhone, like a smartphone. So then they're going to be used to seeing concerts in that format. Like, I hope it doesn't go that way, because we're kind of clinging on to like tangible, like wood and granite and all this stuff. But I just got to get back to the basics. The fact that like the future is here, and we don't want it to happen, and we don't want to say it has legs, but it's kind of out of our wheelhouse at the same time. We're getting old.
We just need to get back to Base X, which is a Head PE album. Sorry, I had to
throw back to Head PE. Yep.
Well, the thing I'm thinking about is, all right, so take I don't know who was on that Live Nation email, like what band.
Oh, dude, I gotta look it up. Go ahead and talk. I'll look it up.
Well, anyway, just take XYZ band, Third Eye Blind. So they're on there. Live Nation's pimping it out. Hey, check this out. Who knows if there's money involved? But for me and most people in this generation, there's going to be someone that will record that, and it'll be on it'll be on YouTube the next day. So I'm not paying for that. I'll go on YouTube the next day.
Metallica Mondays, which is cool.
What are they going to play? Acoustic? Going to do the symphony orchestra? What was that?
Yeah.
S&M.
Yeah.
Miley Cyrus, Humphreys McGee, Gavin Rossdale, Third Eye Blind. Fish, yeah. So there's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, those will pop up on YouTube or some other medium. So I don't know if there's a paywall, but if there is, I don't think that's a play for Live Nation.
Yeah, not long term. Maybe short term, but not long term.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It has legs.
What's funny though, like if you think about the NFL, it's fun to go to a game, but it's such an undertaking to go to an NFL game or to go to an NBA game, especially if you don't live close by. But throwing it on your TV, you're all in every week. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I watch a lot of sports, especially I do know about you, Twan, but especially Celtics and Patriots. And for those, it works for that stuff, but I don't think it's gonna work for the music industry, because again, the feeling at an NFL game is great. But you know when you go to the concert, you're going to have a pretty good time unless something crazy happens. Whereas the NFL game, maybe that your team loses and it's kind of a bummer. Maybe they get pounded. It's just not that much fun, or the weather's bad. But you go to a concert, you're going to enjoy yourself more than likely if you're there for the band you're trying to see. So.
Yeah. Yeah. No, football is a good analogy to like the concert thing, 'cause it's a big show. It's a limited engagement, and it's way different being there than streaming it on YouTube, but man, I don't know. I'm trying to be optimistic, but the same thing. And same thing with those emails coming through, like this club here, Belly Up Tavern, small little club. They have a venue in Aspen, Colorado as well. Talk about just like hard times, this venue's got everyone from the small bands. I was actually the band I was going to see, our first episode was at that venue. But they've had big acts there. Like they have, the Rolling Stones have actually played there.
Wow.
Small bands get booked in there. A lot of those big ones, like Rolling Stones, for instance, was booked by some multimillionaire locally that he bought it as a present for his wife. This is SoCal, by the way, so
it must be nice.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so those venues are closed, right? And then the guy also owns this really nice restaurant, Pacific Coast Grill in Cardiff, really nice restaurant. That's also closed. So this guy's just like losing his shirt now. Really successful businessman. Yeah. So now they have this email coming through to me saying, "Hey, buy these bootlegs."
Yeah,
I love live music, but each one is like $10, and it's like, that's not even that much money. But I think it's a little disconnected on what's going on, because like, well, Spotify's $10, and that's everything, Yeah. So it's a little late to the game. I think it's kind of like they're just trying to figure out any way to get some lost revenue, any way to get some income, but it's just not viable. And then it goes back to how is this even really working? is this like, have you guys discussed this with these bands?
Yeah.
Is this like a, breach of contract type thing?
Yeah.
Because if not, that's a lawsuit waiting to happen. If it is, how does that get,
Yeah, it doesn't make
separated?
sense. Like, I mean, maybe when the band says, "Yeah, we'll play there," they sign something saying anything recorded is belly ups, but or whatever venue they're at. But I know
Yeah.
bands again, like not to harp on Pearl Jam, but Pearl Jam records everything they do because they have the 10 Club and they release stuff that way, and
Mhm.
it's there, so they would never play a venue like that, or they would just say no to that part of the the contract. So I'm sure a lot of bands that know that are savvy to the live music and people wanting to buy those shows that they were at are going to say no to that, and maybe they're trying to sell something they don't own.
Do they offer curbside delivery? You can get your
That would be great.
live recording on wax or something.
That would actually be smart to have something tangible. Maybe that I would actually buy it.
They'd be in
But yeah, I'm not gonna-
they'd be in deeper shit for that though.
Probably, yeah. Unless they
Yeah,
had the
right.
poster that they put together, like I know when we go to the State Theater and there's stuff on the wall in there, I rip stuff down and take it home with me all the time. So
Yeah.
Oh,
don't come after me, Lauren.
posters? Promotional posters, you mean, for the gig?
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly. Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I love that stuff. Memorabilia.
Yep. I mean, it's they're gonna throw it away when the gig has happened, so I might as well be a nerd and it go to a good home. You know what I mean?
I have tons of that stuff. I know exactly what you're talking
I
about.
learned from the best, man. You're the best. So.
Even backstage, I have
Yeah.
some trinkets.
This just
Like
reminds me of. Well, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I think my favorite one is it's stashed away in my ticket stub box or whatever. It's like a Nine Inch Nails dressing room this way type sign. I was like, oh, I'll take this. Fuck it.
That's fine.
Yeah, and because of them, they went the wrong way and couldn't find the dressing room.
And then they never were heard from again. No, that reminds me of going to Weezer with you at Hampton Beach a while back, and we were like, we didn't have tickets, we just drove down, and we were talking to some girl who was trying to sell us tickets, and Nate just looks at me and goes, "I got this." I was like, "Okay, you got this. I'll let you do it." And we got in for I think like $10 a head or $12 a head or something. So.
Nice. Yeah, a lot of it's luck. I know that, like, it's not always like negotiation. A lot of it's just luck. Like, I've been handed tickets a bunch of times because, there's a lot of mishaps. A lot of people can't make it to the show. I've been outside of shows a bunch where people are just like handing me tickets, like sold out shows and everything. Like with Scalpers down the road selling tickets for like $300. It's a great place at the right time is half luck, half like, just knowing that it's gonna happen. Like putting your mind to it.
Shoot or shoot.
Yeah.
He did it. Scalpers. That was where we were going next. Look at that. So, speaking of which, Anthony found an article on Scalpers looking for a federal bailout because they don't have any. They're not making any money right now with all these concerts being shut down. So,
Oh yeah.
that was kind of ridiculous. What do you guys think?
Gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, completely ridiculous. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
I was actually trying to think of an analogy for that, but it's just so outlandish. I couldn't even think of one. It's just...
Yeah, I know. I want to compare it to the automobile sector, but even that's a lot. It's different because
they make something. They make
something. Yeah, exactly. Resellers are literally like, yeah, it's terrible. Especially the way it,
in that article, the guy who is like the head of the ticket brokers, they don't even call them scalpers anymore. They want to make it sound better and call themselves brokers.
Yeah.
They compare themselves to the airline and the cruise industry. It's like, if I pay for a ticket on a plane, the airline industry is going to take care of where I go. If I don't pay you for a ticket and I get it from the source, you don't need to exist. Like, you're not doing anything for me other than marking it up and trying to make a couple of bucks on the back end. Like that, screw you.
Well, it's like it's like the local pot dealer that is upset because it's now legal at the state level. He
didn't grow it. He's just getting it from some other sketch ball, and he's either cutting it or trying to make some. Yeah.
That's a really good analogy, actually.
It's like no, it's not how
I'm
it
a little
works.
biased.
The other thing in that article that I thought was funny was the guy. I think his name was Gary Adler, who said they're too big to fail. Like, no, if you disappeared, nobody would care.
Oh,
Right.
exactly.
It would be less headaches for.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it would be money out of some people's pockets, but
Yes.
you know.
And I feel bad for the the below the line workers, the people that's just their job. They work at said ticket broker, and it's their 9 to 5, and they're trying to put food on the table. Those people I worry about, obviously, but the people who are just putting our money in their pocket to mark up tickets, no, I don't really feel that bad for.
Well, it gets back to like the essential workers thing. It's like, I think in the grand scheme of things, airlines, we need those, but our live music, is that essential? I mean, to me, yes, but to most people, no.
Yep.
Yeah, and then the brokers are absolutely not necessary because it's just a layer of complexity for everyone. It's like, wait, you have this system on lock, whether it's bots or whatever it is. Back in the day, I'm sure when it started, it was literally just getting a crew of people under your umbrella to wait in line first and just edge out actual fans. And then it turned into the monster it is today, where there's legitimate organizations that are giant,
Yeah, and that leads me to that article I read on NBC that came out just maybe a year and a half ago about this place that these brokers go to buy tickets before they're on sale to the general public. So it's called Trade Desk. They are just allowed, the smaller ones are allowed to go in and buy a decent amount. So your local mom and pop and I remember there was a place heading outside of the city of Portland. You drive up towards the Lakes region and you'd see this place that you could buy tickets at. They were a tiny little ticket broker, and they were the type of place that would get the small stuff, and they would maybe have one account with this Trade Desk situation. But you look at obviously the big ones like a SeatGeek or something like that can just buy up tickets around the country for a massive tour or many massive tours at certain venues. So that's where that kind of gets going, and that's Ticketmaster obviously has their hand in it because they're making money on both sides of it.
Yeah. Wow.
You know what that reminds me of is back in 2007, 2008, back when the Rock the Bells reunion with Rage was in New York. I went down to New York and I stayed with a mutual friend of ours who went to Tufts. So smart dude. Well, I guess his old roommate wrote an early program, an early bot that would buy up tickets. This was before this was a play.
Wow.
He wrote, and he was making bank back then.
Oh.
But now, nowadays, it's those places I think, what do you say, Trade Desk, Tone?
Yeah, that was the one that came up in that article I read.
So now it's there's too much inside jobs to even go the bot route. You need to need to have an in.
Well, and they have all those are you a robot? Tell me where here's a picture. Tell me which one is the bus.
The captchas, and then that's why those exist, because those homemade bots would just automate everything.
Wow,
you think you're being?
Go ahead, ahead of the times. I was gonna say your friend's brother was ahead of the times with that one, because that's pretty advanced, and now those companies look cool.
And you think when you're doing those captchas that you're doing it to protect us from the big wigs that are buying all the tickets with the bots. No, it's to protect Ticketmaster so that their brokers can buy all those tickets and they can make money on both sides of it, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, wow. It's just crazy.
Yeah, they own it. It's too bad too. I mean, Anthony, I think you got a little rundown you were going to give us for how they've kind of built their monopoly over the last 20 years.
Yeah, and it's shocking. It's absolutely shocking. You want me to go through that now?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, in currently 2020, Ticketmaster, Live Nation, it's one entity, but there was a ton of building blocks leading up to that. So, I mean, the timeline goes way beyond 2008, but in 2008, Ticketmaster acquired Tickets Now, so they're a ticket reseller. So you can already see what direction they're going in, dating back to 2008. So you get it on the front end, then you get a piece on the resale. Then 2009, February, that's when the merger with Live Nation came in. And one thing to keep in mind is, who Live Nation owns? House of Blues. So they own the brick and mortar. So there's money on the initial ticket purchase, there's money on the resale, and then there's money while you're actually watching the live event.
Well, Live Nation also owns probably 75% of the amphitheaters in the country as well.
Yeah, they own a lot of those venues. So
yeah, and then There's just thinking of Live Nation. There's the 360 deals where the artist will sign with Live Nation for everything. So that was in 2009. 2015, Ticketmaster acquired Front Gate Tickets, and they're a music festival ticketing service that provides services for like Lollapalooza, provides ticket services for Austin City Limits. So they have the small show play, they get the big, festival, big venue play. 2017, they opened Ticket Exchange. So that's the third.
Their online marketplace, right?
Yeah, I think it is. I think that's what it is. It's but I guess that was some in with StubHub, so then they could get in with StubHub, and then 2008, it just keeps going on. 2018, that was the big scalping racket, and then in 2018 they also launched Ticket Exchange, which the cut for those is the buyer pays a 10% buyer's premium, so $100 ticket, they're making $10, and then the seller they pay a 15%. So collectively, it's a 25% fee.
So they're selling one $100 ticket. They're making $25 on it.
And that's the second time around.
Right.
The ticket was already
sold. They've already sold. Had fees of however many dollars. I know Nate has a story about a ZZ Top show that fees were more than the ticket. So.
Yeah, that was at the venue.
That was at the venue.
So there's no the fees usually are. The logic behind the fees, right, is supposed to be some kind of like almost like an ATM fee or something, like some kind of convenience fee or like whatever it is. It's surcharge for really an unnecessary reason. But yeah, when you're buying it for that ZZ Top show, it's a great example. Face value of the ticket was like $20. The fees, convenience fees, were $35. So I mean, it was just like it was more than the actual ticket. And if you're going back even further, we've talked about this in the past with advances. These advances, everything's paid for well in advance, like well before. So the ticket price is just not reflecting what is actually being paid out to the artist at all. So Ticketmaster and Live Nation, they're making much money. It's really hard to just fathom. But this makes it even worse.
It's nuts that they've been able to get away with that. And it started where you. Back where Pearl Jam in the early to mid 90s kind of went up against them, but a lot of that was because they were saying, okay, these bands are playing at these venues, and the only way you can get a ticket in the mid 90s is to go to said venue to get that ticket, or go to a Ticketmaster location to get the ticket from the Ticketmaster location, and you're going to pay a couple of dollar fee for the convenience that Ticketmaster is bringing to you. Back in 1996, I'm kind of on board with that. Like, you're saving me a $40 gas tank, you're saving me time to go to the venue. Maybe I don't live that close. You're just okay, I'll pay a couple extra dollars because it's a lot easier to go here to get my ticket than it is to go there. But with the rise of the internet, obviously you don't need that anymore. You just need to be on your computer at the right time, and you can get a ticket in seconds or minutes. And in that situation, why am I paying a convenience fee? All I need is the internet. Like, I don't need you. All you need to do is pay me you a couple of dollars here or there. Okay, I get it. But like, to have to have those fees be so high that it outweighs trying to drive to a place to buy the ticket, because I've done that before now, which is backwards. It's just crazy.
You nailed it. With the internet, it levels the playing field. There is no convenience. Like, you're not Al Gore. You didn't invent the internet. You know what I mean? Like, there's no. It reminds me of just the breakdown of fees. Like, there's a service charge. So Ticketmaster charges for this service. I get that, like you said, Tone, in the mid-90s, totally makes sense. There's a facility charge, which is a charge added by the venue, which I'm sure, I don't know how that works, if it gets back to the venue or not. But then there's like the whole shipping, convenience, processing charges, which covers ticket delivery method, and it covers credit card processing fees. There are mom and pop stores that eat that. You can't tell me that. You can't tell me that.
Ticketmaster can't.
Yeah, it's just crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, going back to the eBay thing earlier, we were talking about eBay earlier. I used to sell stuff on eBay back in middle school. It's like how I bought like my ski season pass and stuff like that, And part of like making money on eBay back then, especially because it was a little bit more rogue, is like shipping charges were like kind of whatever you wanted to make up. Like, yeah, you could get the calculation once you got to the post office. There was no like way to do it online at the time by the zip code. So you would just mark up shipping. So that's what Ticketmaster is doing. It's like, oh, shipping for your like tickets that come in an envelope, like literally weigh nothing. For whatever reason, that shipping charge is $25. Like, what for a stamp? It makes no sense. So they're literally doing that scam or whatever it is, markup, like astronomically on all fronts.
Yeah, it's crazy. To go back to that venue fee that you were talking about, Twan. Back in the '90s, you'd have a broker like Ticketmaster who would pay the venue fee for to get certain bands to go to those places. So the venue is getting that fee, but I'm sure the venue fee that Ticketmaster is charging is higher than whatever money they're giving to the venue. So they're like, okay, yeah, we're going to give the venue say $15K to exclusively use us to put the tickets out, depending on whatever the show is. But they're probably charging more than that for all of those tickets, just so that they're making a couple bucks on that spot too. So it's just like it never ends with them, and it's why people can't go. The common person doesn't get to go to some of those bigger shows.
Yeah. Well, and I think that fee for the venue has already been implemented in the face value of the ticket to begin with. So it
should be. Yeah, it should be.
So it's really just like a unnecessary, they're just writing it, they're putting it there to kind of give it some kind of like context, but I don't think it's actually where it's actually going. It's like a cell phone bill. What's other charges? We'll actually never know.
Yeah, right. We'll never know. Yeah, it was $1.13 this month, but just give it to us because it's on there.
Yeah. And if you ask what other charges are, they'll tell you we don't actually know. It's something that AT&T or whatever your provider just is allowed to, tack that on. So
well, it's like it's like mandatory upsells. Like you have to, and I'm looking for anyone that follows us on Instagram as a preview. We posted just kind of a sample markup, and there's a order processing fee for $20 ticket. Order processing fee was $4.25. I mean, I can't imagine what that could possibly go to. There's a service fee, then there's a facility charge, and then delivery fee. If you do choose mobile, it's free, but it's one of those things that's like they nickel and dime you. Why not just give me the actual price? And I know there's other StubHub-like sites. One's called TickPick, and their whole angle is no hidden fees. We give you the final amount, but you know what the irony is? It's the same dollar amount.
Yeah. Yep. You're still paying for it.
Yeah, it ends up being pretty much the same. So,
unbelievable.
Yeah, it's crazy. And now, because of some of those fees, back in, I want to say, I have it written down here, the big settlement that happened with Ticketmaster back 2013 or so, they settled, I think, and things went live in 2016, but it was Schlesinger versus Ticketmaster. Started off as a couple of guys in, I want to say, Jersey, who thought that the fees that they were getting to go to a Springsteen concert didn't make sense, and they didn't have a reason, and there was nothing on the language on Ticketmaster's website or wherever they were buying the tickets that explained what the fees went to. So it turned into a class action lawsuit that lasted, it started in 99 and went to 2013. So it lasted 14 years. And then finally was settled, and things had to start being paid out in 2016. So at that time, Ticketmaster was ordered to pay out somewhere in the vicinity of $11 million a year worth of goods and services for 4 years. So that actually is coming up here at the end of June, where those kind of disappear. So they didn't really advertise it. They did email people that were implicated in the lawsuit. I was one of them. I have some stuff. I would imagine you guys were too.
Yes, for sure.
So yeah, it was like, here's a bunch of shows, and there were a handful that I probably would have tried to go to, but didn't know that I was, when they were going to go on sale, when we were going to be able to get on the internet and get after those tickets. And they were gone like that. They were just gone. And then they were like, yeah, we'll do it again. And instead of that, if you want to use, we're going to give you a couple of vouchers, no more than 17 per person, at $2.25 a hit, that you can only use 2 at a time on whatever transaction. So I've been trying to use them whenever I buy tickets online, but a lot of times I go to buy tickets online, and I can take $5 or $4.50 off, but the fees are so exorbitant. It makes more sense for me to just go to the venue if it's close enough and buy the tickets there, because so they're getting away scot free on this this lawsuit that was a fairly big lawsuit back 5 years ago.
Well, it reminds me of the power plant that is just saying, "Hey, I'll pay the fines. Just keep doing what I'm doing. Like, just here, I'll throw money at this. Back off." But yeah, a lot of those shows that were free were very regionally specific, and they weren't. They were cherry picked shows. They weren't. They were
nothing big.
They
were
were
going to Springsteen.
They were shows where, like Nate, you said, they were like the lawn packages. They were those type of shows where they couldn't move tickets, so they just threw here's a freebie in Virginia. Go for it.
Yeah, the demand wasn't there, so therefore, they're just kind of using that as a way to satisfy that, that rule or whatever, which is really unfortunate because it's just, it doesn't make a difference. And it does, I guess it's like the gray area. Yeah, they're doing it. Are they doing it to the extent of which they should? Not at all.
No, not at all. Well, and the other thing is like, okay, I get 17 vouchers. Allow me to just use them all at once and get a free ticket.
No kidding.
Come on.
Yeah.
Like, what's the deal here? Like, that's just let me use the 17. So 17 times 2, that's $34. I'm still gonna end up having to pay you for something because the ticket's gonna be 50 something. Like, come on.
I tried using them and they never worked. Like they just
occasionally they kick back and say they didn't work. It was stupid.
Yeah. So I just gave up.
Because I had a shitload of them, and I feel like they either expired or didn't work. They might have had a expiration on them. I'd have to go.
Some of them had expirations. Some of them, and I still have a few. And I think the like termination date is June of 2020. My issue with that is now everything is done. So like I can't buy tickets for anything for a couple of months. Like that should get pushed out. Like let me have my vouchers until the end of the year or something.
Yeah, I don't see them given their track record. That ain't happening.
Jeez, it sucks too because like you were talking about with those big time players like StubHub and stuff like that. They advertise, like they are, presenting sponsors at a lot of things. So these like brokers, what we're calling them now, scalpers, are like considered a legitimate business. It's like not like our little mafia type run organizations. These are like legitimate businesses. So it's just like, and then Ticketmaster obviously is considered a legitimate business, and they are. But I mean, it's the epitome of doing things not in anyone's favor.
And I'm okay with a StubHub just so long as the marketplace has a cap on it. Like they can't just be taking cuts left and right of you trying to sell stuff there. Like there needs to be Ticketmaster, like their exchange is good, but they're taking cuts off of it. Like that shouldn't be okay. It should be okay. Yeah, you can't go to this show or this sporting event. You want to get rid of your tickets. We've already charged you when you bought them. Why are they charging you again? Like maybe charge a little bit of a fee to the person buying them secondarily, but that's it. Just to run the website or whatever else. You know what I mean? Like those tickets already exist. You've already made your fees on them. Why are we doing it? Why are we double dipping, triple dipping on people that just want to go to a sporting event or a concert?
Yeah. Well, the Pearl Jam shows, for instance, those shows 6 shows that I have or whatever, I had to sign up for a verified fan thing. This is like a new program. And so like each ticket was specific to me. I can resell them, but it's a fan to fan exchange, and I can't mark the tickets up by a penny, like at all. So whoever I sell the tickets to, I actually had 4 tickets to the San Diego show and sold or listed 2 and sold them to another fan that was a verified fan. It wasn't just like a random person. It was, you have to be a verified fan on the Ticketmaster site. And then I sold them, and the exact amount of money that I spent on those tickets were deposited into my account. So that is a solution. I think that's like a new program because I'd never seen it before. And it's probably that band's management is like literally like, no, we're not going to do this. Like, we're not even going to do anything unless you guys abide to this. It's the first time I've seen this program. So if that's, widely adopted, then maybe we'll see some kind of paradigm shift in the way these things operate. But the Rolling Stones show, that didn't have it. I just happened to get in at the right time, bought the tickets at face value. But guess what? They're way in the nosebleed seats, like way, way, way back. And I was on there ready to buy good seats, and I got pushed out. And so, like, guess who got all the good seats? And guess how much those tickets are going for? You know what I mean? Rolling Stones, like, seeing them on the floor is like $5,000, something stupid, you know.
That's always the worst part is you see you're sitting in that virtual waiting room at 10 o'clock on a Friday morning and it's 10:03. Tickets are sold out. You never had a shot.
You didn't have a chance in hell.
Everything is on that secondary market for, you know, thousands of % of markup. It just sucks. It just leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah.
The other thing I came across, and Nate or Tone, you might know a little more about it, but I think it was like 2 years ago. I was looking at going to see The Weeknd down in Mohegan Sun, and I think there was a date at the Garden. And Nice. They had, in the visual of the venue where you can pick your seat, they had a certain section that was like, these are some specific terminology for tickets where the price fluctuates based on the demand.
Oh, yeah. I've seen this.
Have you seen that? So what do you what's that about?
I think it's literally the traffic that's, you know, on the site, and this is probably all rigged too, you know, and like the tickets will actually fluctuate based on, you know, the amount of people that are looking for the tickets at that time. So if, for instance, like, I know this does apply to like back when the airlines were crushing it before this whole thing went down with COVID, you know, like if you look for plane tickets, there's some tricks of the trade to this. If you look for airline tickets on like a Tuesday at like 1 a.m, you'll get a way better deal than if you look on like a Friday or something, or a Saturday when people are actually off of work and looking to book some travel. So those do apply to an extent, but I do know like everything you do online is being tracked. So there you have cookies on what you're doing and when you're looking and so forth. So it's all like kind of relative, but the whole ticket thing, I have seen that, and I've been in a room, and I want to say it's somewhat valid because I would check like an hour later and the price would go down and go up and like so forth. But I don't really trust any of this stuff. I think it's all just nonsense. But I have in fact seen that, and I have seen it where you can actually like zoom in, right, and like pick your actual seat. And I think those are like slower selling shows where like there's like, you know, an option to do that. And they're not just instantly sold out by, you know, these brokers that are scooping up all the best seats. I've gotten like that Bon Iver show I was telling you about, like I got floor seats for that show and I zoomed in, and it was similar to that thing. Like, this is the demand right now. This is what you can get. You can get this upper loge, or you can get these floor seats. I'm like, oh, I'll take the floor seats, you know? So, but yeah, I've been in that scenario before, Twan.
Yeah. The whole thing is rigged, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. It's like I want to give it like some like even this verified fan thing. It's like the first time I've been able to sell tickets or buy tickets. It's the first time. Do I think it's gonna, you know, be around forever? Maybe. I mean, it's still not a cheap ticket in the first place. Now the whole tour is essentially canceled.
Yep.
So
it's a bummer.
The interesting thing is, so as we've said, they whack you on the front end, they whack you on the resell. And then when they get sued, when they try to make it right, they still whack you. And an example of that is, I just logged into my Ticketmaster account. I have no vouchers or codes in my account, and I never used a voucher. And the codes I was cherry picking, but then I got frustrated because, to Nate, to your point, they wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And I had a shitload of them, and I probably used 3 or 4 of them. But yeah, they must have had an expiration date on them.
Yep, it's crazy. I used a couple. It depended on the show. If it was a place I couldn't get to the venue to buy the ticket, or couldn't get to a better box office to buy the ticket, I would use them just to save myself the $4.50. But I mean, I probably still have 7 or 8 of them just sitting there that I can't use. I'm never going to be able to use because they just, you know, they're shady, and that's the way it is.
And you know, another interesting point on the broker front and how this stuff is really actually going on behind the scenes is the fact that bands or artists or any performing artist has almost like their own personal guest list of what's called an artist hold. So you'll have an artist hold. So like for friends and family, you'll have tickets that you can allocate to. Nice.
Yeah, a little brew dog for my fiance. Yeah. Sorry.
No, we're all drinking some brews right now. The artist hold means that you have tickets for said artist. Let's use Dave Grohl as an example. We were talking about Foo Fighters earlier. So his friends, you know, he's playing out in LA. He's got like his friends showing up. So he's got artist and family hold tickets. If those don't get used, sometimes they get released to the general public. So if you wait till the last minute for a show, you might literally get like a front row ticket to an amazing show. but a lot of those tickets just randomly go away. Like if the artist doesn't take them. And I think what actually is going on, I can't say this is actually 100% true, is that those tickets just kind of get pushed into these broker sites. Like, oh, these are premier seats. The artist doesn't want them. There's no artist hold. They're not being used. So instead of releasing them to the public, here you go, said scalper or whatever, scalper, you can just have these tickets, and you'll look 4 hours before the show, and all of a sudden, oh my god, like the front row, the whole row is just available, like out of nowhere. I thought the show was already ridiculous. I thought the show was sold out. Even if you look on the map, it says sold out, but it actually is blocked off as an artist hold for said performing artist. Wow. So,
or maybe not even an artist hold. Sometimes they're just blocked off because they want to drive up demand, and then they'll release tickets, day of that were maybe not as expensive or whatever. They just, oh yeah, hey, we have more, and they're going to drive up demand again because the show is sold out.
It's controlled hype. That's a real thing, and you see it like up in the Northeast where the venues are small and people are hungry for shows.
Yeah,
the day of ticket release is very common, or leading up. Oh, we just had a few tickets released. It's like, no, you've had those for a while,
right?
It's all
You've just been sitting on them so you could make some more money, because that's what you do. And hey, it's America and capitalism and all that stuff, but it's not. It's shady as hell.
Well, in 2020, like, people want value, and for someone like Ticketmaster, actually, I was thinking of this analogy earlier today. I kind of equate Ticketmaster to Walmart, like getting your product into the big box store. They gouge the hell out of you, eat into your margins, but your shit gets in front of eyeballs. You're going to sell more. So even with your margins down, your gross is going to be larger had you not gone with them. But they have the infrastructure. They have the platform. You're willing to do it. But then there's
one hand washes the other. Not to make a COVID joke, but one hand washes the other.
So like as an artist, like you had Pearl Jam in the mid-'90s. I know more recently, before the whole scandal, Louis C.K. was like, I'm not going to book a gig at a Ticketmaster if the tickets are on Ticketmaster or Ticketmaster venue. But now it's like it's the path of least resistance. So you know what it is. It's like Walmart. You know how they treat their employees, but the prices are good, so you go there. So Ticketmaster, it's the only option for a lot of shows. So.
Well, and speaking of your Louis C.K. analogy, and other big artists that at that time and before he kind of got into some trouble with the Me Too stuff, he was able to kind of do that, and he could book some of those ancillary or other venues that weren't affiliated with Ticketmaster and do well and sell them out and probably keep most of his money. But a lot of bands can't do that. So, you've got to be able to. And Pearl Jam tried to do this at one of the peaks of their powers, and it still was, to a point where it didn't work for them. So, they're back at Ticketmaster venues, and not because they love it, but because they want to get out in front of their fans, and this is the best way for them to do so. So,
well, the PJ thing's interesting. Pearl Jam thing is interesting because the reason they had to pivot back to Ticketmaster also is because the venues like we were talking about earlier with Live Nation owning a lot of the amphitheaters, there's only so many other venues at that capacity that can carry a band at that size. Yep. And then on top of that, those contracts for, let's say, Ticketmaster venues have the contract signed with the security as well. So the infrastructure to put on a show to go like rogue and be like, we're going to do a non-Ticketmaster, non-Live Nation venue. There's only so many, and then the infrastructure behind it. So like the security, oh no, we can only work with Ticketmaster. Like even if we want to just like work with you guys at this other arena, we can't because we're literally obligated to only work with them. And if we break that contract, it's breach of contract. So they were screwed. They were like, oh crap. Like one of the shows they did was in Indio, California, where Coachella is. And so that was one of those venues where it was like just an open field. Let's do a show out here. We'll hire our own security. And they made it happen. And then now Coachella is there because of it, because it was like, oh, this is actually viable to do shows out here. Cool. Before that, there was never shows out there. So, but to make that happen, I mean, just imagine you'd have to like really like start from scratch as a band. Like that's not like their job. It's almost like, you know, stretching yourself too thin. Like, oh, this is not our specialty to like put on shows. We're the actual talent.
2 words:
So for us,
Fire Festival.
Yep.
Fire Festival is a great example.
Like
yeah.
when you don't have experts, like that's the kind of shit that happens.
It becomes a problem real quick.
Yep. Metallica got into that scenario. They did 2 festivals. The Orion Festival, was that what it was called? I think they put on their own festival 2 years in a row, and it's all over the press if you want to read about it. They lost so much money, and they're still making up for it. That's why they're doing. You'll see like Metallica like promoting like a whiskey and stuff like that, and like stuff that's just like kind of like off center. Considering that James is in rehab, we all think is for alcoholism.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you know, they lost everything. They lost so much money on those festivals that they try to put on themselves, thinking, oh yeah, we can do this. Well, no, you really can't, because that's like just not what you're good at. Whether you have the money or the connections or whatever it is, like, you know.
Nate, I'm real time fact checking you, and
nice.
They lost millions.
I thought Setla was going to do that.
What?
Until we get Setla, I'm happy.
Yeah, we need Setla to do that. No, continue, Twan. Sorry.
No, they lost millions. They came out and was like, "This is done, and we're never doing this again."
Yep. 2 years in a row they did it, and they lost so much money. They were pretty decent bills too.
Massive lineups.
Yep.
Huge Deftones, Chili Peppers, Rise Against, Dropkick Murphys, Flag, which was the Black Flag with some of the sub members of the band. Wow, never heard of it. That's cool. I mean, it's cool they tried that, but not cool.
Yeah, like that's a great example of like Fire Festival, like you said. Like, you think all it takes is like selling a ticket at X amount of dollars, going back to the Ticketmaster thing, just like gouge the price like crazy. That pays the advance for the bands, the infrastructure to put on the show. Well, no, it's just not the case, because there's unexpected costs, the insurance to put on a festival, logistics to get things set up. It's like a construction project. It always goes overtime, and it's always way more expensive than what it's on paper, and you're always paying fines. So like, to put on a festival, Live Nation obviously has so much money that even if things go wrong, even if they lose money, I'm pretty sure the first like 4 Coachellas probably were in the negatives. You know, they knew that it would eventually probably catch up, and they would be in the green, kind of like opening a restaurant, for instance. You know, you'd have to like take many years in a row of not making money until you're actually in the positives. So for a band to just think like, oh, we can do this too, like, I don't even know why that would ever come across, but you know. But I mean, Lars is the business guy in the Metallica camp, and struck out many times. And now they're promoting a whiskey, which I don't mind whiskey, but given
I like whiskey too. But...
Yeah, I love whiskey. I used to make whiskey.
Yeah, with James. Yeah, right.
Yeah, with James in rehab, it's just nothing more. It's just such a hard thing to see. And they did something here with Stone Brewing too, and I love Stone Brewing here in San Diego, and I love Metallica. But when you have someone in rehab, man, come on, this is not right.
He either is okay with it, or he doesn't. Lars or whoever doesn't care that James is in that. It's one or the other. Hopefully, for me, I have no idea. I'm just speculating. But my hope is that James is just okay with it. Like, okay, yeah, anything to kind of keep the band relevant and keep us going, go for it.
I mean, I think it literally stems from the fact that they were like bleeding money, and they just had. I mean, even though they're selling worldwide, that last album, you know, huge festivals, and just like they're not making any money off those records anymore. So it's all touring. So. Yeah, I mean, it's just they just need to make extra revenue, and promoting a whiskey is one of those routes, as well as selling a T-shirt in Target. You know, they have like that T-shirt. Yeah. So
crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of got into a little tangent there with that.
I think to circle it all back, I mean, we weren't looking to make any friends with Live Nation and Ticketmaster tonight. We've all kind of felt not hatred, but contempt maybe is a better word for them, just as far as the way things have gone for the, you know, your average music fan like us. We want to be able to have tickets available to shows that come our way, especially when they don't come our way very often. So for it to be, it just seems like it's an uphill climb to do stuff like that, and a lot of that is the money that they're pulling in, you know, on a bunch of different fronts in a shady couple of ways. So
yeah, and like Twan said, it's an infrastructure thing.
Yeah, I don't see it changing, because I know for a lot of local smaller shows in the Northeast, a lot of venues use I think it's brown paper tickets. They use Eventbrite, and those work on a smaller scale. And the fees are it's so ironic. The fees are so much less. But for the big shows where it's, Ticketmaster, whether you like it or not, they do have a brand name. So some people do, the average concert goer thinks, oh, this is convenient, when it's like, no, this is not a unique service. I can go on Amazon and buy something in two seconds,
Right. Yep.
Yeah. If tickets were truly a free market and we had multiple options and it wasn't a monopoly, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Because there would probably be pricing would probably be a lot better for sure. The Walmart thing's a really good analogy because even as a vendor, for me as like a vendor, for instance, going into like Walmart, like Walmart would, or something like that, would eat into your margin even as a vendor so much. And that kind of goes into like the advance for a band that like, if my cost of goods, COGS for something is, $10, and then Walmart's like, oh, we'll buy that off of you for $11, but I'm used to selling it for 20. I'm like, ooh, but I can get it. That's like, I'm not going to make anything on that. But like you said, I'm going to be in all those stores and like that name brand recognition, and to be all of a sudden like moving, freight, like some serious freight. All right, I guess it's, volume that I'm going to be seeing. But I mean, it's just unnecessary to eat into it that much, but it's just the power that these companies have,
Well, and they've mostly gone unchecked. I mean, there have been a couple of lawsuits that they've had to pay out for, but they've mostly gone unchecked and been allowed to continue to operate the way that they operate, and they must have a good lobbyist. I mean, it is what it is there, right? Like, they're able to just continue to do what they want to do, even though they've had to pay out here and there.
I would argue, without having any facts, but just anecdotally, I would argue the fees are worse in 2020 than they were pre-lawsuit.
Yeah,
I would agree with you. Yes.
I mean, what the hell is that? What the hell is that?
And that's probably the fees. The fees that are being put onto us is whatever that payout was, kind of just being put back onto us again.
Oh,
that's
a
like,
great
oh
point.
crap!
Yep.
We took such a loss on this payout. We're not going to pay it out. We have our stake. We have our shareholders. Like, oh, we'll just put it back onto the end consumer again, and it just kind of goes over and over and over again, which is just disheartening once again. But I mean, what can you do?
I love music and I want to go to shows, and a lot of times the only way I can do that is to buy a ticket on Ticketmaster. So,
it's not Fugazi in a gymnasium, unfortunately.
Well, the Metallica Orion Fest is a case study in why what happens when you go rogue, or what could happen when you go rogue. Same with Firefest. You know what I mean? Like, these places have the infrastructure and they're exploiting the hell out of it.
Yeah.
And they've been allowed to do that forever, and they've been allowed to swallow up competition forever. I mean, in researching this today, I saw in 1991 the only real enemy or only real competition that Ticketmaster had was Ticketron, and they were losing money left and right. So Ticketmaster just bought them. Okay, we're done. You guys are gone. We're going to take this over. It's just Ticketmaster now.
Wow.
So I'm on the. Go ahead, Nate.
Oh no, I was going to say, when you were talking about the lawsuits. Another thing I kind of geek out on is law, like the way lawsuits go down and stuff. Most lawsuits go to settlement. So for those cases that you mentioned earlier, Tone, to actually go to an actual lawsuit and actually go through the process is really crazy, because these companies have so much money. Like, I don't want to name drop too much. Johnson & Johnson comes to mind. I had a friend that worked for Johnson & Johnson for a long time. They're in deep shit right now, right? For essentially peddling drugs unnecessarily in a lot of ways. So for that to go to suit, behind the scenes, they probably tried to settle so many times, just go away, go away, go away. We don't even want this to get to press. Just go away. We'll pay you off. Like, just go away. No. And then it goes to lawsuit. It's in the press. And now Johnson & Johnson takes a hit, and their whole credibility is, crashing in real time. So those lawsuits with Ticketmaster, like, you can only imagine how much bullying was going behind the scenes from Ticketmaster's, from their legal counsel to essentially, literally send people to these people to their houses to shut them up, like snuff them, to be like, stop talking. Like, we don't want you talking about this lawsuit. Like, we will settle this for way less than you want, first of all, but we just don't want this in the press. So please just stop what you're doing. And if the person persists, then it goes to press and it becomes mainstream news where it's like, oh, this guy's suing Ticketmaster because they found this illegal activity, antitrust laws that are going into effect, and now it's huge and it's big, and we're all disgruntled as fans. And then it just eventually goes away, and like we were talking about, all those lawsuit, payouts or whatever, whether it's little tiny $5 vouchers or paying legal fees, it's all coming back to us anyway. So it's
we're still paying for it. You're right.
It's an unnecessary, it's an unfortunate kind of circle of events. But
one thing I saw just on like Ticketmaster's Wikipedia, and just with the whole big lawsuit is Ticketmaster actually filed suit against its liability insurance carrier. So they're just looking to fucking pawn it on someone else.
They just somebody else is paying for this.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Well, the other one
you didn't keep us safe, so we're gonna sue you too.
Jeez.
The other headline that I saw was the jam band string cheese incident. In 2013, they gave their fans money to purchase tickets to one of its shows so they could resell them on their own site with fewer fees. So like there's
that's awesome.
Yeah, so there's a lot of artists, whether it's Louis C.K., Pearl Jam, String Cheese Incident. I'm sure there's plenty others that are definitely fed up with this.
A lot in the Northeast as well, and I've noticed over the last couple of years, brown paper tickets, stuff like that. I know Manchester Orchestra went out on tour late last year for 10-year reunion type of thing for
saw that show.
Me and everything. Did you go to the show?
Yeah, I remember I saw that show in San Francisco.
I'm jealous. I wanted to go to the one in Worcester, but Worcester's a little bit of a hike for us, and it was like a Sunday, and it was cold weather. I wasn't sure how, snow, all that stuff. So I ended up not buying tickets, and I couldn't resell them because they were going through a different vendor that would, if you bought tickets, they were your tickets, and that was that. Like you were going to the show, which was, if you're looking at the scalping and you're looking at the Ticketmaster situation, is awesome. You know that the people that want to go to that show are going to that show. But like if I couldn't have gone, it would have been tough to get rid of. Obviously, I would have been eating tickets, which is never a fun thing to do. So, but kudos to bands for trying to find ways to get their fans to the show and not worry about them having to spend an arm and a leg to get there.
Yeah, and even that, like, to fight with Ticketmaster or whatever to even allow you to do that in the first place must be quite the process.
Yep.
Because it's not in their best interest. So they're like,
Well, and you're going to some of those different venues that aren't tied to Ticketmaster, and maybe it's not a venue you want to play.
Yeah.
So Nate, this reminds me. You're ZZ Top where the ZZ Top story where the ticket after the fees was more than the ticket itself. The fees were more than the ticket.
Yep.
There was a Ticketmaster was fined $3.4 million by the Competition Bureau of Canada because the final sale price topped more than 20% of the advertised cost. So if you were in Canada, so if you were in Canada, Nate, with that ZZ Top show, that wouldn't have flied. So Canada doing it right.
Good for Canada. They are nicer than we are.
Canadians are nice people.
So $20 ticket, we're talking only $4 tops and fees. That would be pretty good.
That'd be awesome.
I could get down with that.
That was a lawsuit with Ticketmaster?
Yeah, they were fined.
Okay.
Again, they were fined. Here's your give me your wrist and let me slap it.
Yeah, drop in the bucket for those guys.
Yeah.
Oh.
We could do this all night, honestly. We could look up lawsuit after fine after lawsuit, and they continue to just like scoop up all these smaller things. And 3 years from now, they might own brown paper tickets.
No kidding.
We're just dealing with more of it. So it's really unfortunate, but not to bum everybody out, but we all have strong feelings on this topic. So we thought it would be a good one to talk about, especially with the absence of live music right now.
Can I tell a rock and roll Jeopardy type trivia question to you guys?
Yes.
Who was one of the founders of the House of Blues?
Oh man,
I don't know. Do you know, Nate?
I know exactly what you're thinking, Twan, and for some reason I can't think of it, but I've read into this a long time ago.
So any of our listeners, if you're listening, go on our IG, go on Twitter, let us know what you think before you look it up. But
Yeah, I mean they're gonna look it up and put. But hey, yeah, no, I'll learn something.
all right, so this
put it
guy
down.
was an actor, or I guess maybe he still is. I don't know.
Oh, it used to have a name in front of it, didn't I? I can't remember. I got nothing.
You ready, Nate?
I just remember reading into this, and I know the original location was in Boston, back in the day.
Who was it, Twan?
Dan Aykroyd.
Oh,
Dan Aykroyd.
Yes.
Of Blues Brothers fame, obviously.
And that's the House of Blues. Yeah, that's the whole tie.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Good for Dan. Is he Canadian? No, he's from Chicago or something, right? I can't even remember.
Yeah, he founded it in 1992.
Right around when he was trying to buy Callahan Auto Parts. Tommy Boy reference for all of you out there.
The first location was in Boston, right? It was not on Lansdowne Street in Brookline, I think.
It was. We talked about it 2 weeks ago.
That is Lansdowne. It's on Lansdowne.
Yep.
Yeah, it's on Lansdowne. No, the new one, but there was one when
the
House
Axis
of Blues.
and the Avalon, when they knocked it down, they put a House of Blues up in that spot.
No, and House of Blues first.
Oh, it was in Cambridge, Nate.
Cambridge, yeah, exactly. I was going to say Brookline, but yeah, and then it closed down, and then it took over Avalon Axis in whatever 07 or something.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, Dan Aykroyd actually owns a vodka company as well. Speaking of wine and spirits,
smart guy.
Crystal Skull, yeah.
He owns Crystal Skull.
Right.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Holy shit!
Yeah. Talk about a jack of all trades. And he plays a mean harmonica. And he was a Ghostbuster. I know a lot about him. I just didn't know I didn't know that he started the House of Blues.
This is what we call cross-industry nerdery.
Yeah. Well, you're on the Wikipedia page, so you can go down that rabbit hole.
Twan's cheating. You guys can't see at home, but Twan's got like nine monitors going at home right now. So,
you know, something that popped in my head when we were talking about the ticket fees and stuff like that is the anxiety you have. You actually made it through the line virtually or whatever to get to these tickets, and you see all the fees stack up. You're like, crap! Like I could back out, but then I can't go. So if I buy now, at least I can go. But like, why am I paying all these fees like out of thin air all of a sudden? So it's like they're getting a lot of anxiety by like people are just like like pulling the trigger because you see the little ticker in the corner of the screen, like you have literally 5 minutes usually, and it just counts down.
Oh yeah, you're pot committed, and that's the thing. It's really a mandatory upsell. Like I have no choice either.
Yeah,
you're going.
I'm in,
you're
or
paying
I'm
for it, and you're dealing with it,
or I'm not going.
Yeah. I was just thinking of that for some reason. It's just like, all the times, like, I actually was like, you know what, screw this. But it's like, well, I really want to go, though.
In prepping for this, I did write down a couple of Ticketmaster wins that I had. And I didn't win. I had to pay for stuff. But I remember that aforementioned U2 show in 2005 going on the morning that they were on sale and, refreshing browser. And obviously in 2004, 2005, things were a little slower. And getting in and buying a ticket, and they charged me twice, and they gave me 2 tickets in 2 separate sections. So I was like, I have another ticket. Brought a friend. And then the same thing happened when I bought Tool tickets, probably 7 or 8 years later, when we went to Tool down in Boston, Nate.
Okay. Yeah.
I tried to buy one, and it wouldn't let me, and I ended up buying 2. And we weren't together. You ended up finding us seats closer to the stage. But our tickets weren't together because they just messed up and sent me 2. Well, they charged me for 2, but they weren't together. And I tried to buy 1. So I take those as Ticketmaster wins, even if they aren't really.
Take them if you can get them.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with the upgrade of the better seats that were empty, probably for people that,
Well, yeah.
Go
right.
Yeah.
And those seats, the ones you ended up finding were awesome.
Yeah, I think I remember that. That was a great show.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to go through my old receipts and stuff like that and find some like the top 10 like ripoffs or whatever that I had, like ticket fees that either outweighed the face value of the ticket or just just stuff that was astronomical in the first place. Like when I went to Bonnaroo, the festival, like 4 years in a row, and the fees were always like crazy. And yeah, there's like inflation and stuff. I get it, but every year the ticket price would just go up, like unnecessarily. You know, it's the same venue, it's still a 4-day festival, and the price would just continue to rise, and the fees would rise. Fees would be like, you know, $65 processing fee one year, then all of a sudden it's like $105. It's like, wait, so did you? What's the process?
That's crazy. And Boston Calling just canceled, but they had a huge fee for even a 1-day ticket. It was like an $80 fee or $65 fee.
Wow.
Like,
Jeez.
all right, the ticket's already $135. Do I really want to spend $200 on a 1 day of shows? I mean, it's Rage Against the Machine. Yeah, I do, but it's still, holy crap. Like, can I just pay, you know, $150 and give you guys $20 in fees?
Unbelievable.
One thought I had about Ticketmaster and change the one way they could change their brand optics in their brand is if they launch their own concert archives type website, because they already have.
Oh, don't give away our ideas.
Yeah.
Well, they are. Yeah. It's already out there, but they, I mean, they already have not everyone's, but most people's concert archive history if they bought through their platform. So most big shows, they would have that. So I'm on their website now, and I'm looking at upcoming events and past events, and it doesn't even show my history. It only dates back to the last 90 days. So that's a play they could, like, I would be interested in. Like, I would make sure I had my account up to date because I'm a nerd. And
well, yeah, you want to be able to go back and look.
Yeah.
I would too.
But
yeah, provide some kind of value.
Yeah, I know. We're paying you all this money. At least, like, upgrade your servers.
You
and
have
put
the
some stuff
data
in there for us.
Yeah, you have the data, exactly.
It says,
I remember,
for more info, please contact fan support. Like, what the hell? You have the data.
Contact fan support.
Wow. Yeah.
Fan support is automated too. I mean, it's not like it's a person.
It's all automated, yeah. And
Yeah.
Ticketmaster, man.
We could keep going. I know. That's probably as good a spot as any to wrap up there. You guys got anything else you want to add?
Not really. Just disgruntled over the whole thing.
No
Now I'm more
kidding.
pissed. The details really, twist the knife quite a bit. Because you're like,
Yep.
I knew it was bad, but when you look at those details, like you were doing, Twan, on Wikipedia, or just really going through the actual dockets on how the stuff is going down legally, it's like really harsh, because it's like these few people stood up, as a renegade or whatever, to be like, hey, this is bullshit. To go through that, and I know what it takes to go through that. I've almost pursued a few things, and it's a lot of the times it's just not worth it. You're like, oh man, it's just so much stress. It's really just not worth it. But to pursue it and then to get it to that stage takes a lot of effort, a lot of time. Time is money, standing up for it and still not really winning. And there's really still no victory, and there never will be, considering what we're all talking about. It's like, the slap on the wrist, like, the ticket prices are now more than they've ever been.
Yep.
The fees are compounding somehow. Digital ticket. I've actually been, I know we're wrapping up, but I've actually been charged for digital tickets before.
Yeah,
that's
the biggest
that is the biggest crock of,
Yeah, so even if it's like a non-physical ticket, I've been charged for sure.
So we're going to charge you for not inconveniencing you. That's the whole play. It's like, come on. But you're right, Tone. We could go on all night.
Yeah, you paid for the ticket. It's in your phone. You don't have to worry about any physical anything, and we're still going to charge you for it. But yeah, that's a good spot to stop. What's free is this podcast. So go ahead and keep listening. If you've made it this far, thank you. We get kind of animated about things we're passionate about, and this is obviously one of those things. So thank you again for listening. If you want to hit us up on Instagram or Twitter, they're both at Podioslave, and then we have the Gmail account, podioslavepodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Please do.
Thanks all. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it.
Have a good night. Peace, guys.
See you next week.
Next time.